4 things. I thought I rolled up 5 fingers. That's a good start. 4 things I want to touch on why I think we went out last night. And I know, obviously, yes, red card, obviously. But it's not just that. There's some other things as well. Listening to David Moyes' press conference as well, he said he thought after we conceded early in the first leg, the tie was probably over then. I don't agree with that, by the way, but I do think it was a massive factor. That and the red card played a massive part in us going out. It's a weird one, really. I've been sat down feeling sorry for myself for the past hour and a half. Just sort of reflecting back on last night. Put a bit of Sky Sports News on. That was a hard watch because they're dissecting what went wrong. The radio's much the same. This is probably going to be no easier, but at least these are my thoughts than Stuart Downing and someone, I think it's somebody who used to play for Arsenal ladies team or something, dissecting what happens. I don't really think they got their finger on the pulse. So I'd rather give my opinion on it, if you don't mind. I think, as I say, there's 4 things that went against us. Let's just deal with the red card first. It's not just a red card. I mean, I feel bad about doing this. It's hard to do a fan channel in this respect because you are a fan, you support the players, and you have some of your favourite players. Aaron Cresswell is my son's favourite player, and he's my daughter's favourite player. I like him. He's a nice guy as well. So I feel bad saying this, but I'm going to say it because it's the truth. I feel he fell short at the final level. And he's been a really good player for us. Come from Ipswich for the Championship. Was one of the best set-piece takers in the Premier League last season. I'm not saying his West Ham career is over. Far from it. But actually, at that top level, he's been found out and he's been targeted. I mentioned it in the review. Aaron Cresswell was targeted by Frankfurt in the first leg, and they got a lot of joy. Obviously, he was found wanting against Olympique Lyonnais, and then when he was out the team, we went and beat them 3-0 with somebody else playing at left back. As it might have been somebody else. I think somebody said Gio might have mentioned it was somebody's comments in the review. Our third choice right back or our second choice right back is our best left back. Not my comments, somebody else. So apologies, they're your comments, and I've misquoted it. Apologies. I just think at this top level, he gets targeted. To make that same mistake that he made against Lyon again, to have not learnt from it. There's no point in any sort of further recriminations past that. You're not going to train it out of him. If he didn't learn from something that's very recent in his memory, he's not going to. If we continued along this path, we would continue to find that Aaron Cresswell would get targeted. It's not just a top European level. We see Burnley do it every season. We see a number of teams target him for his lack of pace, and also I think sometimes it's not just lack of pace. I'll deal with that in tomorrow's video, actually, but not just Aaron Cresswell, by the way, the teams. It was actually he's in the defining moments, his positional sense and his decision making and stuff like that. And I understand it wasn't great because he was sort of left to it, by the 2 centre halves there. But I think even taking that into account, you can only make so many excuses. He was still targeted in the first leg against Frankfurt. There is still an issue there. And if you are going to have that situation where the 2 centre-backs sort of disappear off and do something, then the person that you have at full-back to cover that space is going to have to be a little bit smarter than that. He made the wrong decision. He got his decision-making was wrong, and he got his technique all wrong. Anyway. And he'll be gutted, by the way. And I felt a little bit sorry for Declan Rice on that one, having to give the interview and whatnot, because it must be difficult for Declan, because Declan is a nice guy. And he is a competitor, and he's a football player. But all these players in the team, a lot of them are going to be his mates. And it must be hard for him to sort of look around and look at someone, to have the ambition of a person to look around and see some of his teammates and say, well, some of you are not good enough to take me to where I need to go. Must make him feel quite bad, because some of them are his friends. The truth of the matter is, for us to go up to the next level, it is people like Cresswell that probably need to be replaced. The David Moyes situation, the red card, look, that was... I have a bit of sympathy for him in that, which is... I don't know how sometimes these managers do it. So after the end of that game, he's got to go and have a glass of wine or whatever, or sit in the office of the opposition manager, the same guy who was basically calling for him to be sent off. I wouldn't be able to do it. I really wouldn't. I've not got the I'm not that forgiving, if truth be known. I've not got the mentality, because it's sort of like, like you've seen someone before and they'll push and they'll push and they'll push and they'll prod and they'll poke, and then in the end you snap and you retaliate and they say, "Whoa, what was all that about? What, aggressive or what?" I felt that was it with Moyes. I just felt a certain naivety to him, really, in the way that you looked around at the stadium, the way the ball boys and the ball girls were time wasting, the way that the players were time wasting, the way that the opposition managers are constantly in the ear of the fourth official. I don't think it's justice. I think Arteta probably played a role, constantly out of his area, right on the touchline. I think there's been a lot of that. For me this season, it's felt like there's been a lot more of the darker arts in games that have involved West Ham this season. I think from the first leg as well, I just think Moyes just snapped. He just snapped. And I do feel a bit for him. That being said, Moyes was a bit of the problem. One of the reasons I don't feel he made decisions quickly enough, and him getting sent off didn't help. Here's the problem with his late substitutions, okay? First of all, I understand that he had to do something. He had to do something to keep the game tight for a little while once Cresswell got sent off. But he is the one that selected Cresswell. It does appear, if you look at all the European ties in their entirety, Johnson's done a better job than Cresswell. I just think that's pretty clear, isn't it? He picked Cresswell, and he picked Cresswell knowing that he was a liability in that situation. I understand why he did it. He wanted him for set plays. But anyway, he chose that. But at some point, you have to try and go for the game. The trouble was, he left the substitutions so late, and they were so split up, that by the time the substitutes came on, the players that were important, like Bowen and like Antonio, were knackered. So actually, those players on the pitch didn't feel the benefit of the players coming on. As I say, he needs to bring in 3 sets of fresh legs all at once, and then people like Bowen and Antonio might have felt the benefit of it. It still might not have worked. We were down to 10 men, but I said in yesterday's video, don't go out with any regrets. Don't look back on regrets, and he will. He absolutely will. Or, well, at least he should do. He should be looking back at that and thinking, what could I have done differently? And getting sent off didn't help. But as you know, if you're a regular watcher of this channel, I think he's been leading up to this for a little while. I really do. I've been saying his demeanour, he's snappy in his press conferences. I really hope. I think he's got a big job on his hands, and that's what we'll deal with more in tomorrow's video as well. He's got a big job on his hands in terms of rebuilding. And I'd like him to go away and have a good holiday and have a rest. Literally, go and get whatever, take his wife away, go away with the family, because he looks footballed out. He really does, and come back with a fresh set of eyes. Don't get me wrong, I think he needs to give his list of targets over to the club to get the deals done first. What I don't want him to do is spend the summer working, because quite frankly he looks stale, and he looks tired, and he's agitated, and I don't think that's a really good look for him. So he played a part. Obviously Cresswell played a part. One of the other things that I do want to put into it, and I've got a bit of stick for this. I said it after the first leg in Frankfurt. Right? And the thing is, I try to be really clear in my language, and sometimes it doesn't matter how clear you are with your language. Someone will even try and pick you up on it. In the video I did after Frankfurt, I said, look, don't get me wrong, we lost the game because we weren't good enough and because of our defending. That's why West Ham lost the game. But also during that video, I made the point that it was hard for us to make the London Stadium feel like our own. Okay, I said the stewarding were too penal on West Ham fans and not enough on the Frankfurt fans. And I also said that the ball boys didn't give the ball back. They weren't partisan enough. And even though I'd said that was a small part of it, and even though I'd said that's not the reason we lost, there was still comments in the chat saying, oh, that's nice, isn't it? Pick out the ball boys and blame them for the defeat. I didn't. What's Tommy call it? Quote mining, all right? But I do stand by my point. And I think you saw it now. And I do think it's a massive disadvantage for us. That was a cauldron of noise. And I don't think we're ever going to make that level of noise at West Ham for that sustained period. Not because we're crap fans. It's just different. Before that game, the owner came out and basically said, I want you all to wear your white shirts tonight. Can you imagine? And they did, by the way. Can you imagine David Sullivan coming out and saying, right, you lot, I want you to wear the, what I want you to wear is the, sort of like the third kit tonight. We all do that. Well, first of all, we haven't all got a third kit. And can you imagine our response if the owner told us what to wear? I also think at West Ham, we are a family club. We really are. I say this to someone that takes their family, who takes their children. There's lots of children in the ground. We are just a family club. There's not going to be that same cauldron of noise that you've got there with them. I wasn't looking around in the crowd and seeing loads and loads of kids. I basically saw loads of male. There was some female fans there, don't get me wrong, but in the main there was loads of male fans sort of between the ages of sort of 20 and 40. Really, they're going to make a lot of noise. Is my point. I don't think we'll ever quite get that, but there is a disconnect between the stadium and the stadium operator and West Ham. And that is, if you look, there was a point in the first half, Fornals went to take a corner. He couldn't take an effective corner because stuff was just being thrown at him. And I was looking at the stewards and they made no attempt to stop any of the stuff being thrown. Basically, the stewards were happy enough to let the crowd make it intimidating for West Ham. We'd never let that happen. And as I say, that's why I tried to include the footage in my last video. Actually, I felt the West Ham stewards were more penal against the West Ham fans than they were the Frankfurt fans. So it's like the Frankfurt fans were lighting flares and getting all leery, and the stewards were, well, hold on, we better watch out because the West Ham fans might kick off now, so we'll go and double up. We'll double up our line of defence against the West Ham. You get the impression that at that stadium, probably the stewards are probably Frankfurt fans, and I'm not saying no stewards are West Ham fans, but there is definitely a disconnect there. The ball boy thing, well, I think the David Moyes thing made my point for me. All I said was, I think sometimes when you're at a home game, you sort of want the ball to deliver the ball back to you a little bit more quickly. I think was my point, and the opposition a little bit more slowly because it might frustrate them. That was borne out in that. So I think, it's always going to be difficult for us to go to stadiums like that. And there are loads of them. They're all, it's not like Frankfurt are the only club that make that noise. I thought Sevilla made tons of noise as well. Lyon, exactly the same. That's just the way it is in a lot of these European games. I don't know if they're like that in their domestic games. I don't know if that's fair play. If that stadium is full like that for Frankfurt's domestic games, fair play. And I do mean that sincerely. I don't have a lot of love for the club, to be fair, for Frankfurt. But fair play. If in an uncompetitive league, which is what they've got, they can fill that stadium and make that noise in every game, all the league games and all the rest of it, fair play to them. Honestly, fair play to them. But I do think there's a massive advantage here that we just can't get. We could have done it at Upton Park, and it would have happened at Upton Park, but at this place, we don't have home advantage. Do you know what? We're actually too far from the pitch, even if we wanted to. I'm not condoning throwing. I don't think anything nasty. I thought it was paper cups got thrown. Like a Coke cup, like a refill, Coke cup refill. I think that was what was getting thrown at Fornals. As you know, there's no weight behind them. You can't actually throw a paper cup very far, can you? We're nowhere near close enough at West Ham to be able to do that. Not that I think we should be throwing things at players. I just think we're so far from the action, we can't intimidate the opposition. I've thought that for some time. So I think that was an issue in it as well. There's nothing we can do about that. It's not our stadium. The only thing we can impact is how we respond when we're in the opposition's noisy stadium, and that is not react like David Moyes reacted. It was a surprise to me that Moyes was surprised, being the manager. He's nearly 60 years of age. I think he's coped with the play acting really, really poorly. I understand Declan Rice getting frustrated by it. I felt for Declan. Declan during the match was almost appealing to the Frankfurts, to your human nature. It was almost saying, "Come on, guys, you're being unreasonable here. You're not injured. He was almost appealing to them. I thought, they're just cheating, Dec. You can't. Anyway, there you go. The final thing, I said 4 things. The final thing was just overall technique, really, and just think at that final level, we didn't quite have enough players with decent enough technique, particularly when we're down to 10 men. And you're down to 10 men, you're going to need some of that. And I just think at that top level, when our game is sort of based around attitude and work rate and endeavour and stuff like that, at the point where you can't physically impose yourself, where you don't have enough men to physically impose yourself, then you're looking for something exceptional. And I don't think we had it. How many times do you see Antonio double marked or Bowen double marked? Sometimes triple marked. You're going to need some exceptional technique to wriggle your way out of between 3 players or 2 players. You know, beat one, knock it past the next. We don't have anyone that can do that when we're down to 10 men. So there's obviously a rebuilding job that needs to be done. I will deal with that in tomorrow's video, by the way. All in all, you know, just it's just disappointing. You know, it's disappointing. Sorry, there's no particular structure to this video, but it's you know, it's a tough one to do, to be honest with you. It feels really crap this morning. When I woke up, you know, it's like when you immediately wake up. It's, you know, it's a couple of seconds before you sort of remember where you are or what day it is or whatever. And I did, and I woke up, and you know, there's 2 or 3 seconds, and I sort of rolled over on a pillow, sort of hit the alarm. Oh no. And it felt, I didn't have a drink last night, but it felt like a hangover. But that's really bad news. I feel really sad. I feel really down about it. I still do. So there you go. Anyway, so I didn't quite have it within me to do the onwards and upwards and things will be better video today. I probably won't have it for tomorrow's video either, but I'm sure I'll get there. I don't think it's the end of the world, but there's a lot of work to be done. I mean, there really is. There's an awful lot of work to be done. We could stay precisely where we are, but if we want to move forwards, there's lots to be done. And the team, I said it before. I said if we don't win this team's going to need an overhaul, and it really is. But we'll deal with. Well, that gives us something to talk about during the summer. But I want to touch on a couple of things tomorrow. Anyway, thanks for tuning in. Sorry for the miserable video, a bit crap in it, but yeah, there you go.